Hey guys, how are you doing? Catherine Shelton live in the Amazon Create Space group on Facebook. I hope you guys are all having a lovely Thursday. I'm really enjoying my Thursday, actually. We're having a good week. Yesterday, we released the new update. Was it yesterday or the day before? I think it was the day before. I can't even remember now. It's all a blur. But we released planners and prompt books in Tangent templates. I think it was Tuesday, wasn't it? It was Tuesday we released those. So yeah, I thought while I wait for everyone to show up, I'd show you. Here's like a really simple prompt book that my son actually made when we were testing the new prompt system. My 9-year-old son made this with me, and it's basically a handwriting book for kids, so they can draw pictures and write and practice their handwriting. But it's to make kids love handwriting because it's all about their favorite things. So you can pick my favorite friend and my favorite drink. So obviously my son would put like strawberry milkshake and I would put an old fashioned. But this is basically what you do with it. And so this is like a prompt book for kids. So yeah, I see a lot of you have like just absolutely jumped on this. And I know so many of you are doing prompt books. So many of you are doing planners. Really, really exciting to see. That's what the planners look like. They are customizable, which is super cool. You can change the style, you can choose a date range. And actually, if you're in the Curate group, do check in there because I gave some tips about doing niche planners and integrating challenges. Am I looking a bit choppy? I'm looking a bit choppy on my computer, but I'm hoping it's just on my end. Hi, Veronica. Hi, Layla. Hi, Sue. Laurie, Xylist, hope you guys are all doing super, super well today. Cool. Okay, so what I wanted to talk about today, now I see you all sort of showing up. Amazon did a webinar this morning. Let me go back a little bit because I am hot. Amazon did, Bob's here. Yay. Hi, Bob. Hi, Melinda. Hi, Wendy. Hope you guys are all doing very, very well today. So Amazon did a webinar this morning. It was actually KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, did a webinar on developing a promotional strategy. Who watched it? Did many of you watch it? I was live blogging it. So if you look back through the group, I kind of kept a thread going. So the main points they were talking about, I put into that thread. So I don't know when they're going to have a replay. I think they are going to have a replay. Whether or not they do, you can go to that thread in the Create Space group and read through the highlights from the webinar this morning. They also gave out a PDF file, which I've put in our files in the group as well. So you should have all the information from that webinar. Now, this gets to the fun bit when I get to give my response to the webinar. No, so what they did, they gave a lot of good facts. They explained KDP Select. They explained how to use the different types of books, like using Audible to make audiobooks and how to put your book into different formats. They mentioned how to do pre-sales on ebooks. It was kind of very factual. So they covered all the basic things you need. But I think what people really want to know and what the point of the webinar is how do you promote your books? And this is something I see so much in our group. A lot of authors come into the group and say, hey guys, can you give me a tip on promoting my book or marketing my book? And that's such a hard question, guys, because it's like, well, sure, I can just list social media platforms and say, sure, yeah, go and like pin it on Pinterest and post it to Instagram and, I don't know, make a slideshow on LinkedIn and like go on Tumblr. Like you can just reel it off, right? And say, make a YouTube video, like post it on Facebook, tell all your friends. And I see all these posts. I'm in a lot of author and writing groups, and I'm always seeing people do things like, hey, let's all go and like each other's Facebook pages. And I'm like, why? Why are you doing this? What is the point of doing this? Of getting a bunch of authors to like each other's Facebook pages? Like, I guess it's a nice thing to do, but it's kind of like aimless. Like you're just doing it for likes. Like it's not really helping you sell books, which is basically what this is about. We want to know how to sell books. So what I wanted to do is talk about my thoughts on a promotional strategy and how to sell books. And it might be a little bit controversial because I know that in the publishing world, there is like the right way to do things. And the right way to do things is to get a proofreader and an editor and a cover designer, and to probably spend, and you can't go to Fiverr, right? You can't go to Fiverr because it'll be cheap, and you can't go to Canva and do it on Canva because you get what you pay for and you're not a professional designer, and so on and so on. And I see so many authors who are like spending hundreds, maybe thousands on editors, proofreaders, cover designers, and no offense to any professionals in those spheres because they have a role to play. But it's so unimportant compared to actually selling your book. You need to sell your book, and to sell your book, you need an audience. You need people who are going to buy your book. And this is like a universal thing. It doesn't matter if you're selling books. It doesn't matter if you're selling toothbrushes or cars or like anything, coffee, whatever it is you're selling. You need an audience. You need people to buy your stuff. And a lot of people get really bummed because they put their book on Amazon, it gets no sales. And they're like, I'm bummed, I'm sad, my book was a failure, no one liked it, everyone hates it. And it's funny because someone just posted in the group, they said, is there a demand for brother, sister? I'm sorry, I forgot your name because I'm not looking at the right screen. But she said, is there a demand for brother, sister composition books where I guess the brother writes in one side, the sister writes in one side? And I said, well, probably not. I don't think anyone's actually, well, I didn't say probably not, there's no demand. But I said, I don't think many people are doing that. I think it's kind of a unique concept, which is awesome. It means right now there's no demand because it doesn't exist. But you can create demand. Like it doesn't really matter if it doesn't exist. I looked at fidget spinners on Google Trends, and it's like there was no demand for fidget spinners until I think it was April 2017. Then suddenly fidget spinners, there's like this huge spike because demand was created. So you have this power. And the problem with so much advice on marketing, so much traditional advice on marketing, is that it's all about like, well, look and see what everyone else is doing. Look and see what has been done before. And like, if you do that, you're stuck. You're just stuck sort of trailing behind everyone else. If you have a cool idea, go create demand. Like what this lady suggested, the brother-sister idea, well, what she can do is make a video of like 2 cute kids, like go find a friend with cute kids and get them to fill out the book together and just record the funny things they say while they're writing their like notes in the book, or put cute music on it. And suddenly that's the kind of thing that will create demand. You post that on Facebook, let people share it, say, oh my gosh, my kids would love this. Get your friends to post it, get anyone, like post it in some mommy blogging groups if you can. And that's how you create demand. So you are not tied to what traditional publishers tell you to do. And here's the thing, a lot of the traditional, there's 2 things about marketing advice. One is that the people who are telling you to get professional editors, professional cover designers, professional proofreaders are usually people who make money from those services. Alternatively, they're people who need to create content. So they're just kind of regurgitating all the standard traditional advice. Now, here's the thing. Marketing is art. Like marketing is 100% art. If you're following the traditional advice, if you're following what's always been done, it's boring. It's really boring. And one thing that stood out to me in the webinar today was they said, make genre appropriate covers. And I see this a lot. I see this a lot in our groups. People come in, they're like, oh, you've got to have a cover that fits with the genre of your book, so you indicate to people what it's about. You know, I go into like Barnes, I'm always wandering around Barnes & Noble. It's like my favorite place. And I always walk past like the horror section, and all the horror books look the same. I walk past like the sexy like Fabio section. All the sexy Fabio books just have sexy Fabio on the front. I'm like, I'm never going to buy one of these books. Like, okay, I probably will. And here's the funny thing. I'm not averse to horror stories. I'm not averse to romantic stories. But if I see a shelf of books that all have Sexy Fabio on the shelf, I'm just going to walk past them and dismiss the whole lot as, oh, that's the Sexy Fabio section, not for me. Now, the crazy thing is, I might actually read one of those stories if you showed me how it was for me. And I think the problem is so many authors and publishers, I'm not going to blame authors, but I think publishers are so like inwardly thinking that they're not bringing in any new readers. They're just writing for a niche, and they're keeping that niche as it is. They're not breaking the mold. So my thought is that you should look at pattern interrupts. And it's a big thing in marketing that when everyone's doing a certain thing, break the pattern, stand out, do something different. So, I mean, I was thinking about, and I'll go back to what I said about marketing is art. So I feel like a lot of people are doing like the fruit bowl approach. Like you think of art and you think, art must be about like drawing like nice fruit bowls. That's like perfect art. It's when you get your like paint and you draw a beautiful fruit bowl. And there's people who spend their life like practicing the still life, drawing the beautiful fruit bowls, and it is boring fruit bowls. Okay, great, you're really, really good at drawing fruit bowls. Perfect. But the people who get attention and the people who get money, especially nowadays, are the people who break the mold. Like, I think Marcel Duchamp was probably the start of it when he put a toilet in the middle of an art gallery. Like, it's crazy. It gets attention. It's kind of shocking. It's kind of controversial. It's kind of brave to do that. Damien Hirst, he put a cow. He got like a dead cow, and he got a shark. Oh my God, he did a shark. He got a dead shark, put it in formaldehyde, and put it in the middle of an art gallery. And of course, they win like Turner prizes. All the people turn up. A lot of people get mad and say, "This isn't art. This is a disgrace. This is shocking." But he's in all the newspapers. Guy puts dead shark in art gallery, and suddenly he's on the front page of a newspaper with his dead shark. People are paying him big bucks to make other art. I mean, Banksy, right? Banksy's the same. Banksy, Damien Hirst, Marcel Duchamp, they're marketers. They are 100% marketers. Like, okay, it's art, but I mean, art isn't about like painting flowers and painting like a bowl of fruit. Like marketing and art are the same thing. They're about getting attention, delivering a message to people, getting a certain reaction from people. And the key to marketing is like emotion. Like I say often with products, when you're developing products, put emotion into it, put it an emotional hook. So there's something in there that makes people take notice of it and say, this is for me. This speaks to me. This like expresses all my emotions. And a big secret about emotions is that we identify ourselves by, and I talked about this a little bit in my article on appeal, making appealing books the other day. We tend to self-identify by our emotions because that's kind of what drives us. And the funny thing is, we have like this mix of like positive and negative emotions. Like sometimes we look at ourselves and we're like, I'm the worst person in the world. Why do I exist? I'm a terrible person. I'm really depressed. I keep making mistakes. I'm a mess. My hair's all crap. Everything's going wrong. And sometimes that's your genuine emotion, and that's the way you identify yourselves. Then you have a good day and you're like, yay, I'm like confident. I'm a strong, independent woman. I'm doing this thing. I'm making money. I'm rocking it. Both emotions, totally valid. But it's funny how we identify ourselves by emotions. Like you're like 1 minute you're like the strong, confident person. One moment you're like the hot mess. And so many memes, so many marketing campaigns. Really think about memes. Think about the kind of memes people share. People share memes that are very emotional. So if your book, so let's wind this back to books. And here's the thing, like books are just a product. Like I know you've put like a world of everything into your story, into whatever it is. Books are a product. Think about what's outside the book, like the whole world of your book. And let me take this back a little bit because KDP talked a bit about branding. And what did they say about branding? They said something interesting about branding. They said branding is how you engage with your customers. And I thought that was really interesting. Sorry, there's some questions going on. Someone said, Tell me who Sid is. Oh yes, Sid is my son. Yeah, the football approach. Sorry, I was just looking back at this. Oh, branding. We're talking about branding. Okay, so Amazon said that branding is about engaging with your audience, and I thought that was a really interesting way to look at it. Because there's a lot of different thoughts on branding. Some people feel that it's very important to have a consistent look, a consistent style on all your books. And I think this is kind of where we tap into like whether you should have genre appropriate covers. My thought on branding is it really depends on you. What's really important here is to be authentic. So for some people, especially if you're doing like business books, you might want it to look super slick. You might want to have like all your books, like think about O'Reilly books maybe. They have a very obvious brand. Like if you see an O'Reilly computer book, you know exactly what it is. It has that sort of pencil drawing on the front and an animal on the front, and it has a very specific look. So for some types of books, having that like very consistent, obvious visual appeal could be really important. But I think what's really important is being authentic. Like for some people, it gets really sterile. Like you don't necessarily want a sterile brand. You don't really want everything to look super professional. Sometimes you want an author who's going to go on Twitter and say the F word and just connect with his fans or her fans. So that's why, who's the guy that wrote Irwin Welsh? Is it Irwin Welsh? He wrote Train Spotting. Like it's all written in like Scottish dialect. Like I don't know if he had a proofreader or an editor or whatever, but it's kind of hard to read if you don't speak like Scottish slang. And I think with someone like that, it's all about just authenticity. Like you're not going to care if he has spelling errors, if he goes on Twitter and he says something offensive. Like that's kind of part of his brand. And that's why I say there's not really like a universal approach to branding. For some people, it may be about having a very specific look, style, consistent like visual quality or logo. For other people, it might be just in the way they speak, the way they communicate with people. And I tend to break branding down into 3 areas. I think it's about the visuals, it's about the voice, and it's about the values of your brand. So to me, when I think about a brand, I think about what do you stand for as an author? What's important to you? And I mean, like people say, don't get political. Well, for some authors, being political works. I mean, J.K. Rowling, she doesn't stay away from political things. She goes on Twitter, she trolls the president. Like sometimes it's absolutely fine to express your values. Visuals, we talked about visuals. For some people, having a logo, having a very crisp style might work really, really well for them, especially if they're doing like factual books or how-to books, so that you can recognize them and say, well, that's a very strong brand. I trust that brand. Another example of that is the For Dummies range. Like they have a very strong brand. And if you see those yellow books, you know exactly what they are. And people trust them because they recognize the brand. The other one is voice. And we just kind of talked about voice, that some people, like people communicate in different ways. Like some people, if your books are for teenage girls, you might want to communicate genuinely in the way that teenage girls might communicate. Here's the key though, you have to be like real about it. Like you can't talk like you think teenage girls talk. You have to be on Tumblr and you have to actually like connect and be genuine about it. And if you are not a teenage girl and you suck at talking to teenage girls, it might be a good idea to recruit a teenage girl to handle your social media in that area if that's who your books are for. So let me see, I made some notes. So a couple of interesting facts. They said, I think the one that cracked me up was at the beginning, they did a poll and they said, do you have an author brand? And then the majority of respondents said, what's an author brand? So guys, you are already way, way, way ahead of the curve. You know what an author brand is. It's a way of expressing your values, your voice, and having a visual appeal to people. They also did a poll and they said, how are you promoting your books? And I thought this was interesting. 50% of people said they plan to promote through social media, which is kind of vague. 15% said they were going to have a personal website. 10% said through a blog. and 6% said through live events. And there was something I really liked there, actually, that when they talked about book signings, they said that book signings could take place anywhere. You didn't have to necessarily do a book signing in a bookstore. You could be in a nightclub, you could be in a pub. Actually, this is a brilliant idea. Let's all just go to the pub and sign books. You could be in a coffee shop. Like you can go to all kinds of different places, like wherever your audience hang out, and do the book signing there. And I really was kind of thinking about how you can do events that are interesting, that are creative, that break the pattern. And I was, oh yeah, let me sorry, I know I'm a bit all over the place. Okay, so I started, what did I want to talk about? Oh, there we go, inbound marketing. So there's a couple of different approaches to marketing. The old-fashioned approach is really push marketing. It's like putting your message in front of people and giving them the hard sell. So like cold calling, sending emails. It's kind of invasive, like timeshare. So like the ultimate push marketing. You're like, you have to do this, hard sell, hard sell. Nowadays, it's not very sustainable. First of all, push marketing is really expensive because you have to pay a lot to be to either have people making phone calls or to like go places. What is more popular now tends to be inbound marketing. And inbound marketing is kind of like you're the pretty flower and you just sit there and wait for the bees to come to you. And basically, inbound marketing is when you put out great content, you have something amazing, and you put as many doorways for people to come and find you as possible. So like as a pretty flower, first of all, you need an appealing product or an appealing brand that speaks to people. And a big part of that, as we talked about, is emotion, having a very strong emotional connection. But also it's about having keywords, it's about having great content, and keywords are really like your doorways for people to find you. But having great content is part of being a pretty flower, giving people a reason to come to you and seek you out. And inbound marketing is probably your most powerful form of marketing. So for example, you could have a website that has like freebies. So if you're an author and you've created this amazing book, you can come up with all kinds of things about your book. You can make a map of the world. You could have character information. You could have pictures and illustrations of the characters or places in the book. You can have other spin-off products. You can make, I know like BPAL Perfume Company are always making perfumes based on books. Like you can have all this great content on your website that people want to come and seek out to learn more about you. So that's like putting your beautiful flower there. And then you have to open the doorways for people to come and find you. So basically you have, maybe you put things on Pinterest that draw people in. So you're like, here's a free character sheet, or here's a beautiful illustration of a character in my book. And then they click on the Pinterest link and that says, to find out more, come to my website. They go to the website, they sign up, they leave their email address. And next thing you know, they're buying your book. You just kind of keep funneling them in. And the key is like having those doorways in places where your audience are. Like, where are your people? Where do they congregate? And it cracked me up because I think KDP like said something that almost sounded like a quote from our group. They said, where does your audience hang out? How do they talk? And I think like that was one of the best things I heard in that webinar. I was like, oh, now we're talking. Who are your audience? Where do they hang out? And I think that's why I have a hard time when people come in the group and say, well, what social media should I use? Because there's a million social media platforms. They're all good, but you want to put stuff in the places where your audience are. Like, there's no point in me going on LinkedIn and saying, hey, I've just created this anime book and it's really cool. Like, that doesn't belong on LinkedIn. Now, if I made a business book, then great, go on SlideShare, which connects to LinkedIn, and put your SlideShare about your book on LinkedIn, and maybe you'll get some interest there because it's relevant to that audience. So you really, really have to tailor your marketing to the audience you want. You have to go to not only the platform where the people you want are, but you also have to deliver your message in a way that appeals to your audience. And I was thinking a little bit more. I was thinking about how you do that, like how you get people's attention. And we talked about pattern interrupts. We talked about breaking the pattern, like doing something to shock them. It's like, whoa, here we are. Like, in other words, don't do like PowerPoint presentations. You want to catch people's attention. Like, you want to be the toilet in an art gallery. You don't want to be the fruit bowls. But you can get really creative with your marketing. Like, for example, I think about many years ago when I was a teenager, I lived on an island and we got a new radio station and I got a job there and I loved it. I was so excited. And the radio station had the frequency 104.7. So what they did when they started out, they just gave out hundreds and hundreds of bumper stickers. And all of a sudden, people were driving around the island with these bumper stickers that said Island FM 104.7. And what they did, every week, they gave away £104.70 to someone who had a bumper sticker. And every day at 10:47 in the morning, they gave away £10.47 to someone who had a bumper sticker. And it was huge because people were kind of proud of listening to this new radio station. There was an incentive in that they had a giveaway. They were giving away the £10.47. And I often do contests in our group because honestly, for me, if I spend sort of $50, I give away $50, I can get a lot more response from giving away that $50 than if I spent that $50 on Facebook ads. And not to give away all my secrets, but giveaways can get a lot of attention if they are done well and if they're handled well. And a big thing with giveaways is to just like get people talking about what you're doing and get people like social with it. Another thing we did in the treasure hunting group, one of the things we did in treasure hunting, there's like a common phrase in reselling where you say, be on the lookout for this product, and it stands for BOLO. And one day I was in the dollar store and they had these like gangster rings with like letters that you could switch out. I realized you can make it spell BOLO. So we did a giveaway. We gave away, I don't know, like 20 of these rings. And suddenly everyone was wearing these rings that said BOLO and taking pictures and showing them off. And so I said, great, make it your profile picture. And we had a cool like collage in the group of everyone wearing their rings. And it builds a community. It builds your following. It makes people want to be part of what you're doing. And I think as an author, you need to think less about just like, how do I sell books? But how do I get a following? How do I create a community that loves my voice, that loves what I'm talking about, that loves my world, that wants to engage in it, that wants to be part of it? And deep down, we all kind of want to be part of the club. We want to hang out with the cool kids. We want to like do something. We want to be included. And I think if you create a strong world for your book, and not just in the book itself, but that world kind of bleeds into your website, your blogs, your other products, people will want to be part of it. And I would say if I've got like one thought about promotional strategies on a book, like really think about the world. Like really think about creating a world that people want to be part of. What does Wendy say? She says, since I'm not good at being in public, I know I have to get my book in the hands of people in my niche that are comfortable and active on social media, who love my book enough to be a cheerleader. Yes. And that is kind of when we move into influencer marketing. And it's interesting because I think you can have your fans being your own influencers, kind of like with the BOLO ring. Melinda remembers the BOLO rings. But I mean, in some ways, like your readers can be influencers. A lot of them probably actually like communicate with other people who would enjoy that genre. Like I know a lot of kids who are into anime all hang out in groups on, I don't know, WhatsApp, Snapchat. They're all chatting with their friends about that genre. So if you can get a reader there, they're like the little bees. They're going to go and tell all the other bees, and they're all going to come back to the flower. Now, and the flower is you. I have so many metaphors going on here. I'm not even sure where we are. But influencers are kind of like taking the fan concept to the next level. And by influencers, what you're doing is looking for people who have an audience. And like Wendy says, who are comfortable on social media or making videos. And, you know, it's funny, Amazon didn't mention that in their webinar this morning. They talked about, what did they talk about? They mentioned websites, blogs, websites, blogs, social media, book signings, and paid advertising. They didn't mention videos. Oh my gosh, I think videos are probably one of the most powerful forms of marketing. I know, I mean, for us, videos have been absolutely just very important. Even when I've been like, oh, I don't want to make videos. I don't want to do any videos. People connect with videos. They want to talk to you. They want to see what you've got to say. If you don't like being in a video, that's okay. You can make cartoon videos. You can use, I think, Animoto. There's Move. There's Ripple. There's a whole bunch of video making software now. So you don't actually have to be in the video. You could also put your dog, like make your dog the character and have like your dog. There's a friend of mine, Marika, has a pit bull called Stella, who is now like a celebrity. And she's so good at it. She takes pictures of Stella, dresses her up, and puts captions like, Stella thinks this. Stella's enjoying a glass of wine, or whatever it is. Like, it's awesome. It breaks, it makes people take notice. It has an emotional connection because people are like, oh, what a cute dog. And I love what that dog's thinking. That dog thinks like I think. So it has all those things. But really connecting with video is really, really powerful. And with influencers, what you are doing is connecting with people who have communities. So YouTubers, like YouTubers are a really obvious one. Like find YouTubers who would enjoy your book and who have an audience, and talk to them. See if you can come up with some kind of cross promotion. Bloggers, I mean, I guess people do read blogs, but bloggers might be worth a shot. Instagram, hit and miss, but again, it might be worth it. But think outside the box. Like, what about meetup.com? Like, look in your local area. Who runs meetup groups? Like, there's so many ways to reach out to people. And I mean, even if you don't want to attend in person, you can send them a copy of your book and say, here, this is a giveaway, please do a contest. And like, you have so much scope to reach people. And ultimately, like, that's what you need to do. Just reach the people who are likely to buy your book. So there's two parts. I'm going to finish in a minute, but there's two parts to selling a book, or in fact, selling anything. The first thing is to make it appealing, to make it a book that people are actually going to want to buy. So I think if you have a story and it's a good story and you're confident in your story, and most authors who come into our group are confident in their story. So you're kind of winning on that. So have an appealing product, so have a good story, and pay attention to the cover. And we can debate covers. I say break the mold with covers. I don't think genre-specific covers is the way to go, unless you have a traditional publisher who's saying, you must do Sexy Fabio cover. Fine, do your Sexy Fabio cover. But honestly, I think it's better to like break the mold and do like wacky covers that stand out in the shop. You don't have to do the covers that everyone else is doing. So I would say that. So appeal. Make a book that's appealing. It has a good story. There's something cool about the cover that makes you want to buy it. And don't be afraid to break the mold. Like, don't stick with genre-specific covers. The second part is findability. People need to be able to find you. So the more places you have doorways where they can find your book, so put it on Amazon, put it on iTunes, put it on, I don't know, YouTube, have a reading on YouTube, put information about the book on Pinterest. And the cool thing is, like, make the information you share about your book and the world of your book, make it specific to that audience. So like, I don't know, if you're going on LinkedIn, maybe you could say 10 business lessons I learned from this fantasy novel. Like, you can tap your book, you can like attach your book to wherever it is you want to market it. And seasons and holidays are really, really good for this. Like, if it's like National Donut Day, you can be like, John the, I don't want to say policeman because that's such a stereotype, but you could do like, I don't know, John the trash can collector in my new novel eats 10 donuts a day. And it's National Donut Day. Happy day, John. And then you could put a picture of John with his donut, and suddenly everyone's like, ha ha ha, yay, I want to learn more about this book. So yeah, I think there's a lot of ways to hook your book idea and the world of your book into holidays, into current seasons, like do a Christmas version of it, or do like Oh, there you go. So do like a printable Christmas card and put it on your website. So like if you're an author, you've got your story, make a downloadable Christmas card with pictures of all the characters from your book, and people can download that and send it to their friends. Oh, send it to their friends. So like, just get creative. And if I have, like, I've got to finish up because I'm just like, but if I have one thing left to say, break the mold, break the pattern, get people's attention. Like, it's really important to get attention in marketing. And here's the thing, we are conditioned. Like, I went to a girls' school, and everything in my girls' school that I went to was about conformity. And you can imagine how well that worked for me. It was just like, no, you have to wear the same uniform as everyone else, Catherine. You have to not talk to people. You have to do this. And I found every way I could to break that conformity and stand out. But it's a lot of conditioning. They spent a lot of years trying to condition me to conform. And we all have that. We're all like, oh, and you know, it's kind of a natural survival thing to look around and say, like, if you go to a new place, you go to a new country or a new restaurant, you look and you go, oh, what's everyone doing? Oh, okay, that's how they're doing their knives and forks. Okay, I better fit in. But that's actually kind of damaging to us as marketers, because when you're marketing, you don't want to fit in. No one's going to take any notice of you if you fit in. So you kind of have to let that little bit of crazy, that little bit of art, that emotion, and remember, it all comes back to emotion. There's kind of a taboo about expressing emotions, about being like, oh, I'm a hot mess, or I'm really strong and confident. Like, both of those opinions are kind of taboo. So people play around with them with memes. And memes kind of give them a way to express emotions that normally we can't do. So there's a little bit to marketing of breaking taboos, of being the one person. Like, if you see like a dance floor, the marketer has to be the first person on the dance floor, no matter what everyone else is doing. You kind of got to be brave, and you've kind of got to lead that pack. And yeah, so don't follow too much what everyone else is doing, because that's not good marketing. Like, that's just fitting in. Break the mold. Be authentic. Be yourself. If you've got something to say, if you've got a strong emotion, you've got a strong book, you've got a strong world that you've worked on, use it. Put it out there. Get people to connect with you. Get people to see what you're doing. Make people fall in love with you, and make people fall in love with the world of your book. You can do this. All right. Have a good one, guys. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday. I enjoyed chatting to you. And yeah, go get tangent templates. All right. I love you. Bye.